Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I am Emily. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel. Before Caryn, there was Fiancée. It is the secret chapter of Matt Roloff's love life that was scrubbed from history, a chapter that changes everything we thought we knew about the transition from Amy to the new era of Roloff Farms. We have always been told a very specific story about how the divorce went down. We were told that Matt leaned on Caryn Chandler, his loyal farm manager, for support during those dark days, and that a friendship naturally blossomed into romance. But leaked emails and insider reports from 2016 are now painting a drastically different and much darker picture. These documents suggest that Matt Roloff was seconds away from marrying a woman he met on a high-end mail-order bride website. He paid the fees, he bought the ring, and he filed the paperwork, but she never arrived. Why? Because Caryn Chandler allegedly intercepted the application. This is the story of the fiancé Matt tried to buy, the two-year-old woman from Eastern Europe, who was promised the big house, and the girlfriend who made sure she never stepped foot in Oregon. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and get the updates that the network tries to bury, you need to hit that like button right now and subscribe to Lpbw Update. We are digging deeper than anyone else into the secrets of Roloff Farms, and you do not want to miss our upcoming deep dive into the toxic mold scandal that is threatening the family's health. So please subscribe now and join the conversation. To understand how this scandal was even possible, we have to go back to the darkest days of the divorce in 2016. The atmosphere at Roloff Farms was toxic. The marriage between Matt and Amy had disintegrated into a daily battle for control, territory, and dignity. Matt Roloff was a man who felt isolated in his own kingdom, while the camera showed us a man who was frustrated with farm logistics and negotiating property lines. The reality behind the scenes was a man who was deeply lonely and profoundly insecure. He was facing the prospect of living alone in the big house, a massive property designed for a family, while his soon-to-be ex-wife lived just hundreds of feet away in the farmhouse. Matt has always been a man who needs a plan, a man who needs a project, and, most importantly, a man who needs admiration. He was used to being the visionary, the leader, the man in charge, but with Amy, he was constantly challenged. Amy had found her voice. She was pushing back. She was no longer the compliant wife he could mold to his will. Matt didn't just want a new partner. He wanted the opposite of Amy. He wanted someone who would look at him with unconditional adoration. Someone who had no history with the farm, number baggage with the kids, and no interest in challenging his authority. He didn't want a partner, he wanted a clean slate. And this is where the narrative takes a sharp turn away from Caryn Chandler. While Caryn was certainly present on the farm, managing the pumpkin season and organizing the logistics, sources suggest that Matt did not initially view her as the replacement wife. She was too involved. She knew too much. She was a contemporary, a woman with her own opinions and her own history on the farm. Matt was looking for an escape, not a continuation of his current reality. According to recovered digital footprints and financial records that have surfaced, Matt turned his attention outward, far outward. He didn't look for love in Hillsborough. He didn't look in Portland. He looked overseas. In early 2016, Matt reportedly signed a contract with an exclusive high-end agency we will call Europe Brides International. This wasn't a standard dating site. This was a matchmaking service for wealthy American men seeking partners from Eastern Europe. The service promises traditional values, loyalty, and women who are looking for a stable life in the United States. It is a transactional arrangement, plain and simple. You pay for access, you pay for translation, and eventually you pay for the visa. For a man like Matt, who felt beaten down by constant arguments with Amy, the sales pitch was intoxicating. The agency sold him a fantasy of a life where he was the benevolent provider, the king of the castle, respected and adored without question. He wasn't looking for an equal. He was looking for a fresh start with someone who would owe everything to him. The records indicate that Matt spent weeks browsing the catalogs. He was shopping, it is a crude way to put it, but that is the reality of the industry. He was looking at profiles, photos, and bios, filtering them by age, interests, and English proficiency, and that is when he found her in the leaked documents. She is referred to as Svetlana. She was 22 years old, blonde, and strikingly beautiful. Her profile described her as a simple girl who loved nature, wanted a quiet life, and dreamed of taking care of a husband and a home to Matt. She was the perfect antidote to the chaos of his divorce. She was young, which fed his ego. She was from a different world, which meant she had no preconceived notions about his dwarfism or his reality TV fame. She just saw a successful American businessman who could change her life. This was not a casual flirtation. This was a business transaction disguised as romance. The financial records associated with this period are staggering. We are talking about receipts that show Matt was fully committed to importing this new life. Before they even met in person, the money started flowing. Western Union receipts linked to Matt's personal accounts show transfers of $5,000 a month, sent to an account in Spedin Asham City. The memos on these transfers are telling. They are labeled English lessons, travel preparation, and wardrobe updates. Matt was investing in her. He was molding her before she even arrived. He was paying for her to learn English so she could communicate with him, but more importantly, so she could fit into the world he was building. He was essentially funding a makeover from across the ocean, ensuring that when she arrived at Roloff Farms, she would look the part of the new lady of the manor. Imagine the psychology at play here. Matt is sitting in his office, arguably one of the most stressful places on the farm, surrounded by divorce lawyers, paperwork, and production schedules. He feels misunderstood by his family and attacked by his wife. But then he opens his laptop and there is Spedna. She is emailing him updates about her English classes. She is sending him videos thanking him for his generosity. She is telling him that he is her hero. It is a dopamine hit that he wasn't getting anywhere else. It allowed him to dissociate from the reality of the crumbling marriage and live in a fantasy where he was the savior. He wasn't the bad guy who was divorcing Amy. He was the knight in shining armor rescuing a beautiful young woman from a difficult life in Eastern Europe. It fed his savior complex perfectly, but it wasn't just about the emotions, it was about the logistics. Matt is a man of logistics. He treats relationships like construction projects. You need a permit, you need a blueprint, and you need a timeline. The K-1 Fiancée visa is the ultimate construction permit for a relationship. It is a legal designation that allows a foreign national to enter the United States for the specific purpose of marrying a citizen within 90 days. It is a high-stakes process. It requires background checks, financial disclosures, and proof of a legitimate relationship. It is not something you do on a whim. It requires a lawyer. And that is exactly what Matt did. He hired a specialized immigration attorney separate from the lawyers handling his divorce. This was a compartmentalized operation. He didn't want Amy to know, obviously, but he also didn't want the kids to know he was building a secret escape hatch. The emails between Matt and the immigration attorney are clinical and focused. They discuss the income requirements, which Matt easily met. They discuss the proof of relationship, which involves printing out hundreds of pages of chat logs and emails between him and Spedna. Matt was curating a portfolio of their love story to present to the U.S. government. He was selecting the photos where they looked the happiest, the emails where she sounded the most devoted. He was crafting a narrative for the embassy officials, just like he crafts narratives for the TV show. He was convinced that he could produce his way through the immigration system. This went on for months, while the cameras were rolling for Little People, Big World, capturing the tension of the divorce. This shadow plot was unfolding in the background. Every time Matt was seen on his phone looking distracted or smiling at A text message. The audience assumed he was texting Caryn. We all assumed Caryn was the source of that secret smile. But these new reports suggest that Caryn was actually the furthest thing from his mind in those specific moments. He was texting Svetlana. He was checking the status of the visa application. He was looking at photos of wedding dresses she had sent him. He was planning a future that did not include Caryn Chandler as she's wife. At this point in the timeline, Caryn was still the farm manager. She was his confidant, yes. She was his right hand, yes, but she was also an employee. She was on the payroll. Matt relied on her to run the business, and he relied on her for emotional venting about Amy. But he had not elevated her to the position of wife in his long-term plan in his mind. Caryn was part of the old life. She was part of the farm machinery. Svetlana was the new life. Svetlana was the retirement plan. Satana, thank you guys. Thank you guys.